sound last 1 week at a time. SCV Chat starts now.
Welcome to SCV Chat. I buggered up the intro before we even got started. That's a Monday for you. It's 7 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, so you know what time it is. It's time for your weekly episode of SCV Chat. Before we get started, please remember, the views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the SCV, its GEC, nor divisions, brigade, camps, or any subsidiaries. How is everybody doing in Dixieland tonight? We have a great show for you planned where we have past Commander-in-Chief Paul Gramling joining us to talk about his SCV career. We did this about a season ago, I think, with Connor after he got out as a Mississippi Division Commander. And it's a series that I kind of wanted to keep doing to remember not only our SCV history, but maybe you can get some, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe we can all still, no, that's not it. I'm about to bring Paul on so he can tell it because Paul's sitting back there and he's like, I know what to say. That's the Commander-in-Chief in him. He's smiling now. Thank you, David. Maybe you can find inspiration in these SCV careers to not only encourage you to run for our offices, but maybe, just maybe, if you're sitting there and you haven't ran for an office, this is your call to action. We have a lot of great leaders in this organization that I've noticed are either really hesitant to do anything or they don't feel like they should. And, we've had a lot of great men serve in the SCV, a lot of fine Southern gentlemen, and we do have one here tonight. Didn't want y'all to get confused and think we brought someone on we shouldn't. But I think, by the way, Jason Boshears, past Commander-in-Chief, is working on being a host so you can see all the nice stuff he's putting up as he gets used to our software. But yeah, no, inspiration, I think, is the right word. We have a lot of great men who served, and they have had a great SCV career that I think we can all learn from. And again, Southern gentlemen by nature are not usually a bragging bunch, so I have to kind of force these people to come on. It took me to convince Connor a long time. Paul and I talked about it for a while. I can't remember how far back this conversation goes, Commander. He might remember. He has a better memory than I do. But I've been wanting to continue this series for a while. If you guys like the Career SCV series, please let me know. It's something we'll sprinkle in every now and then, maybe twice a season. But without further ado, let me introduce you to our main man tonight. The episode is all dedicated to this man and the great work he's done to the SCV, past Commander-in-Chief himself, Paul Gramling Jr.
Good evening, Moose.
How
are you doing?
I'm doing good. I hope I didn't bugger up your intro, your introduction.
I'm good with any kind of intro.
As long as I'm not calling you a scallywag, you good with it?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. But we do have a lot of great people in the chat. We have past Commander-in-Chief Chuck McMichael, who probably will be the next person we have on the show, this series. But we also have Carl Jr., apparently, for those who don't know. When I grow up, I want to be like Carl Jones. And Carl has a funny thing with his nameplate where he has Junior on it. And apparently it has taken off because I have a lot of people calling me Carl Jr. this evening. But I'm Moose, a.k.a. Carl Jr. now. And I don't Carl probably doesn't think that's a compliment, but I do, working with Carl. But, yeah, it's good to see everybody. Mr. Hardy, good to see you. Billy Bryant, captain of the 1G here in Mississippi. Good to see you, Captain. Let's see your. Oh, yes. Let us not forget the tagline. I don't think I've given you, but I've at least said it enough where people kind of associate it a bit with me. The thing I'm probably most jealous of with Commander Gramling, the most sharp-dressed man in the SCV. I might post a collage after the show at some point of the suits this man wears. just phenomenal suits. My great-grandfather, Bob Joyner, who was the first member of my family to join the SCV, would have loved to meet you.
Well, I have a motto. With
Okay.
that, Moose. You never get a second chance to make a first impression.
That is very true. Most people, I have to give them a second impression because they either see me farming or see me off, and I have to tell them, no, that's just a bit of my personality. But yeah, no, you would have loved, and my great grandfather would have loved to meet you. He quick story before we get into your episode, Commander. He wore this peach jacket at my aunt, my dad's little sister's. I can't remember what it was, graduation, recitals, something. And he stuck out like a sore thumb in this small town of ours. And he loved that peach suit. He also had another jacket that I got a similar one to that my dad knows about that sadly I can no longer fit into because I bought it when I was very, very tiny. But he would have loved to meet you. He would have loved to compare suits with you.
He sounds like my kind of guy.
I would have loved to see a SCV national reunion with you both at it, dressed up. Hence why I'm trying to save up enough money for national reunion for me and Commander Gramling to wear matching suits. Or not matching, but close to matching.
Well, at least matching coats.
Matching coats, at least. That's all y'all are getting. But without further ado, please share this episode out, everybody. Let's get a lot of love here for our past Commander-in-Chief and get a lot of people to see this episode. So without further ado, Commander, the hour is yours, sir.
Well, thank you, Moose. I was thinking about how we get started on this particular topic, and we talked about this. It's been several months ago. How I got started in the SCV, and then what catapulted me into SCV politics. It was a strange story. This is a story that I shared with the Sons of Union veterans when I was Commander-in-Chief, and they went to their what they call national encampment. It's like a national reunion in Boston in August of 2018, and I shared this part of this story with them. As a lot of people here know, your listeners, I'm a retired letter carrier with the U.S. Postal Service. 30 years I spent with them, and the station that I worked at was two men there, one named David Anderson and another one named Nat Baggett. They were into, quote, Civil War reenacting and also the SCV. They had been after me for quite a while to start reenacting. They said I would fit the part very well. So about 2 weeks before my son was born, at the end of June 1990, they was going to do Vicksburg reenactment, and they asked me if I would like to go, and I finally kind of caved in. I said, "Yeah, I'll go." So from that moment on, Nat Baggett, carrier I worked with, he called me Custer, and it kind of stuck. For my first 10 years of reenacting, no one knew my name except for Custer. Even in the SCV, people called me Custer because there was a resemblance. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago, so there was a resemblance there between me and Custer, and I kind of rode with it, if you will. I got all the mileage I could out of it because it was fun to do. And sometimes, saying as a reenactor, it's fun to play the bad guys. That's what I did. I started doing Custer impressions at reenactments. I had got the uniform, and started doing the impression. In 1991, I joined the SCV in the spring of 91 with Richard Taylor Camp. So I was reenacting almost a year before I joined the SCV because I was working on getting my ancestry, taken care of, and so I could join. But there was an event in 1991 called Maryville, which is a little small place just south of Shreveport. And the host of that reenactment was the second lieutenant commander for the Louisiana Division. His name was Scott Thorne. So I was doing my Custer impression there at that event, and he had a scenario he wanted to work on before the battle. We wanted to do a duel for the spectators, and he was looking for someone to have the duel with. And he told me all this later. And he said, you know, I can't stand Custer. And when I found out that you were doing his impression, I decided to ask you to be part of the duel, be my opponent in the duel, because I hated Custer. And he didn't know who I was. He didn't know me. And that's why he picked me to do the duel, because he couldn't stand Custer. So we did the duel, and it was a big success for all of the spectators there. But I got to know Scott pretty well. And this was then in 1994, I was adjutant of the Taylor camp between 91 and 94. And we went to our division convention in Lake Charles. He was running for division commander, and he asked me if I would run for second lieutenant commander of the Louisiana Division. I was still just an adjutant with the Taylor camp. I didn't know anything about the commander or lieutenant commander or the duties or anything like that. But he asked me if I would run, and I agreed, and I ran, and I was elected second lieutenant commander of the Louisiana Division. I was still just an adjutant at the Taylor camp. But that was in May of 94, and July of 94, I had a talk with our camp commander at the time. Our elections then were done between June and June, you know, is along the SCV, the national SCV elections. So our elections came up at the end of June, 1st of July, and the commander that we had, camp commander, had pretty much overloaded his his schedule, and he wasn't able to do the job he wanted to as camp commander. And I went to him and I asked him, I said, listen, I said, I understand you're overloaded. It's hard for you to, you know, serve as camp commander for everything, all the jobs and stuff that you're doing. He said, I told him, I said, if I find someone to serve as adjutant, would you contemplate stepping down and appointing me camp commander? And he agreed to that. So he appointed me camp commander in June of 94. And at that point, we changed the voting schedule and went from and started going on the calendar year, like a lot of camps do. So I served as camp commander for the next 4 years. Well, during that time, I also served, after serving as second lieutenant commander in 96, I was elected first lieutenant commander of the division. And then in 98, I was elected commander of the Louisiana Division. Now, see, all this started because someone picked me to do a duel because he did not like Custer. So as in serving as lieutenant commander, like I said, I didn't know much about national at that time either. 96 for the centennial, you know, it was in Richmond, Virginia for the centennial. And when I was elected first lieutenant commander of the Louisiana Division, I was also asked if I would run for ATM councilman, because the person running, I'm not going to name names here because that was 30 years ago, but the person that was running for that position was what we would call granny. And a lot of people did not like the idea of him, you know, serving as ATM councilman. So I had no idea what I was doing, but I agreed to run. And so I ran against him, and I lost by 30 votes from what I was told. And here I was a newbie, wet behind the ears, didn't know what was going on, especially on national politics. So there was a few people impressed that I was able to make that good of a showing against someone who was established in the SCV national politics. So that kind of put me on the road to other offices within the SCV. So I served that position. I mean, lieutenant commander until 98, like I said, for the Louisiana Division. In 98, I was elected division commander. In 2000, after my term as division commander, in Louisiana, we only serve one term. We cannot succeed ourselves. So we only serve one term, like on the national level. We can always come back after sitting out a term and run if we want to. But, I've always believed that, if you do that, then please have someone examine my head. But I ran for ATM commander in 2000, and when we was in South Carolina, I won that event, that race, and so that put me on the national scale level, if you would, on the GEC, and it was also the first GEC that Chuck McMichael served. He served as Ed Deason's chief of staff when Ed Deason was elected commander-in-chief. So Chuck and I both kind of jumped on the GEC, experiencing it at a national level at the same time. So I served as ATM commander from 2000 to 2002. I did not travel as much as I would have liked to, because I was still working at the post office. I was still had to make a living, earn a living. So I didn't get the chance to travel as much as I would like to have. But anyway, after that, my term as ATM commander, I ran for ATM councilman in 2002 when we was in Memphis. And that's when things started getting interesting in the SCV on the national level. I ran for ATM councilman, and Chuck ran for ATM commander at the same time in 2002. We didn't know it at the time, but we kind of had the deck stacked against us because of there's two factions in the SCV, especially in the ATM at that time, and they come together to make sure that Chuck Rand and myself was defeated in that race, and they were successful. They defeated us, and this was the same group that would ultimately come after Denny Swinney when he was elected in 2004 as commander-in-chief. So this is this kind of stuff that was leading up to what we call the coup in 2005, where things really got interesting. I'm not going to get into the coup and names other than this is something that I experienced, I went through, because in 2002, when I lost my race for ATM councilman, the Taylor camp asked me if I'd serve another term as camp commander, and I did that for 2 years. In 2004, I ran for lieutenant commander-in-chief for the first time, and a member by the name of Anthony Hodges from Chattanooga run against me for lieutenant commander-in-chief. The convention was in Dalton, Georgia in 2004. And so that was pretty interesting there as well. Denny was running for commander-in-chief against Troy Massey, and I was running for lieutenant commander against Anthony Hodges. Both Hodges and Massey were both real big in the MOSB at the time. And at that particular time, the MOSB was still pretty much connected to the SCV as far as holding our conventions together and different ceremonies. We shared headquarters at our GEC meetings. We would have it one day. Back then, we used to have 2-day GEC meetings, and the first day, SCV would meet at the Richmond Hotel, Richmond Inn, and MOSB would meet at headquarters at Elm Springs. And on Saturday, we would be at Elm Springs for our Saturday meeting to finish out the GEC meeting. But that went on for several years until in 2004 when Denny Sweeney was elected over Troy Massey. And this was the third time that Troy Massey had run for Commander-in-Chief. He ran against Ed Deason in 2000 and lost, and he ran against Ron Wilson in 2002 and lost. Then he ran against Denny, and he lost that as well. But Anthony Hodges defeated me for the lieutenant commander spot. So when that happened, Denny turned around and asked me if I would serve as National Chief of Heritage Defense. We didn't have heritage operations at that time. That came later. But he asked me if I would serve as Chief of Heritage Defense. And I told him I would. So I spent the next 2 years that's before that position was a voting member of the GEC. However, I still had to be at the GEC meetings because of all the attacks and heritage problems that I had to deal with and come to the GEC with kind of hat in hand, asking for money for different court cases and what have you. Back then, we had a little bit better progress as far in courts and success in courts. It wasn't completely turned against us like it has been for the past few years. But I served in that position under Denny Sweeney, and that's when certain factions of the SCV and MOSB decided in February of 2005 to illegally try to take over the SCV National. So that went on about a month. We went to court. SCV, won the court battle, and the reins of command was given back to Denny Sweeney for the remainder of his term. So I served as his National Defense Chairman, guy for the Heritage Defense guy for the rest of his term. In 2006, our convention in New Orleans is when we adopted a new constitution. Because of what happened with the coup attempt, it showed us that we had to make changes on a lot of things, and I'm not going to get into all the changes and the reasons and why, but we had to make changes and move our corporate, which was in Mississippi at the time. We moved it to Texas because they were friendlier to 501c3 organizations. So that was done under the new constitution, and a lot of things have changed. So that's what pretty much took place in New Orleans in 2006. I did not run for any position then. I was just kind of working on the camp level and taking care of business there. In 2008, we had our national convention in Concord, North Carolina. I ran for ATM councilman again during that time and was successful this time. So I was elected councilman for ATM, and a gentleman we all know by the name of Thomas Strain was elected councilman for the AOT. That's when I first met Thomas and became good friends after that. So in 08, between 08 and 2010, I served as ATM councilman. And in 2010, I decided to run for lieutenant commander-in-chief again. When I announced I was going to run, then a fellow we all know, most of us know, named Kelly Barrow, he decided he was going to run as well. So it was the two of us running for lieutenant commander-in-chief in 10, and Michael Gibbons was running for commander-in-chief. Michael won, and I was defeated by Kelly. But our Constitution had changed after New Orleans, after new Constitution was put in, voted on, the national officers, the Commander-in-Chief and Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief, they could run again. They could succeed themselves once. They could run for re-election once. But up to that point, Chris Sullivan had served as Commander-in-Chief, and he decided not to run again. The same thing with Chuck McMichael. He decided not to run again. So Michael Gibbons was elected Commander-in-Chief in 2010, and Kelly was elected Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief in 2010. Well, 2012 kind of rolls around, and Michael Gibbons decided he was going to run for re-election. And Kelly decided he would run for re-election as well. For about a year, I had people asking me if I would consider running again against Kelly. I was a bit hesitant at first, but when it got closer, I decided to give it another shot and run against Kelly again. Again, I was defeated. It's hard to beat an incumbent, regardless of who it is or anything like that. It's really hard to beat an incumbent. And I'm not going to get into what happened, but there was things that happened during that election that upset some people. And that's why in 2016, there was a amendment proposed to take the Commander-in-Chief and Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief and just serve one term and not be able to run for re-election or succeed themselves. And that passed in 2016. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. But anyway, in 2014, I thought I'd give it another shot, and I ran for ATM councilman again, and was elected and served as councilman for that time. In 2016, I decided I was going to give the lieutenant commander position one more try. So I did, and up to that point, I had not, since I've been a member of SCV and been going to national conventions, there's always been one of the two positions that had been challenged. But this particular year, 2016, was in Dallas. Thomas Strain was running for commander, and I was running for lieutenant commander. And that was the first time those two positions went in unchallenged. So we both were elected, and I was elected lieutenant commander-in-chief for that 2 years. And like Chuck said, Herman White is the one that proposed the amendment to restrict candidate, the commander and the lieutenant commander can only run, serve one term and not run for re-election. And it passed, and it's come up twice since then, and it's been defeated. So I think it's pretty much kind of a done deal. I don't think it's going to come back because people, I believe, are happy with the way it is right now. And then in 2018, I was elected commander-in-chief over Johnny Holly was running against me, and I was elected commander-in-chief in Franklin, Tennessee in 2018 to 2020. So it's been a lot of things happen, in between, doing this, but it all started because I was doing a General Custer impression.
That's crazy to think about. That's how it all started. But I mean, so many great stories in there and some things I want to pick your brain about. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we can ask this question from Ron Kennedy real quick before we do. And I think you've kind of already stated it, but what's your opinion on a CIC and Lieutenant CIC being able to serve?
My opinion, I see both sides. I really do, because I've lived through both sides. But we found out that when you can run for re-election, like I said, incumbents are hard to beat, and it doesn't necessarily matter what kind of job you're doing or you've done, because. And I don't mean to, upset any of our members, but a lot of our members, the rank and file, they're not paying attention to who's running for what, who serves in what position, or what a particular officer has done or not done. Usually they're just a lot of times they're voting on whoever tells them to vote. And an incumbent has a big advantage on that, whether he's doing a good job or not. And there's too much. There's too much chance of improprieties occurring. I'm not saying this happening. I'm just saying there's a good chance for things like that to happen. And I understand. I had several people, tell me when I was elected that they wish I could serve a second term. And I get it, I understand, that's because usually whoever's in that chair, and if you think they're doing a good job, you want them to keep doing it. But I be quite honest with you, as after serving lieutenant commander and as commander, it's hard to keep that up, doing the job that I felt like it should be done. And the traveling, you have to, remember, my 2 years as Commander-in-Chief, Linda and I put almost 100,000 miles on our vehicle and hit about 36 different states. And you can do that in a 2-year period, but you try to do that for another 2 years, it can be hard on someone. It can take its toll on someone. And I don't think you're as effective the second term as you are the first term when you do that. Like I said, but I see both sides of it. I think we got some good men out there that's coming up through the ranks. And I think we're in good shape for several years for men that's coming up that will serve in those two positions.
All right. Thank you, Commander. That question's been put out there on YouTube, and you kind of already said it, but I do thank you for going a bit deeper into it. The Carl Jones Senior, I will start calling him, has entered the chat since I'm Carl Jr. Good to see you, Commander. But
hey, Carl.
Yeah, and I mean Ron puts a good point out there. The Confederate president can only serve one term.
But he served what, 6 years?
6-year term, yes, sir.
Designed for 6 years. So now it was talked about when we was writing up the new Constitution was being, put together and written. It was one of the ideas was that you could run for 1 year. Run for one term, but you served a 3-year term. And the idea behind that was the commander and lieutenant commander served 3 years. Then you had your Army officers that could run for re-election one time. And you would always have someone that's been on a previous GEC to help the new people that came on, and a lot of ideas would stay with the GEC, but it never materialized, and that's when they went with the at first, running, for re-election once, and then after what happened in 2012, it was decided that it's too much. It's just too easy to abuse that. It's not happening very often, but it only takes one time to put a sour taste in someone's mouth about anything to do with SCV and politics or trying to serve. So that's why they went back to the one term.
Okay, well, thank you, Commander. We're going to take a quick commercial break. If you do have any questions for Commander Gramling, put them in the chat. I'll save them for towards the end of the show. We already got, I think, 1 or 2 that we haven't put up there yet. And when we get back, I guess you're going to dive in a bit into more of your term as Commander-in-Chief, some of your accomplishments during that time. And then after that, we'll start to wrap up the show, and we'll be asking them questions. So be thinking of questions to ask. I have some I'm going to ask. And we'll be right back after this commercial break. But first, let us thank our sponsors. Let me pull up the sponsors. Of course, right now, our sponsors are scvchat.com. If you want to watch our show live from SCV Chat, check out kind of our favorite video of the month, our store, Patreon, Moose Book Club. Links to everything and whatever SCV Chat's doing is on that website. Again, wonderful store, by the way. Go buy a t-shirt. And so much more. And we're going to be continuing to add to the store, as well as we are about to be in reunion season. It's a bit early, but we do have a reunion section on the website for members. So if you want to stay up to date on people running for office, for instance, like we've been talking about tonight, we will have candidate interviews on there, reunion updates when it's happening, and so much more. So go check out scvchat.com, but also go check out our Patreon. For just $10 a month, you can help us reclaim the narrative 1 week at a time, where you get sneak peeks at special projects working on currently. Of course, you get your own exclusive show with the Moosehead Book Club. And, of course, some episodes of the Monday show, we have an after show, about 10, 20, 30-minute show, talk about everything we talked about tonight and kind of go into some detail and maybe some stuff behind the scenes funny happening. Like, I can see Jason Bosier's behind the scenes right now, and he looks like he is very, very like working his butt off, bless this man's heart. So we can talk about stuff like that and so much more. So please check out SCV Chat on Patreon. For $10 a month, you can support the show, make sure we stay on the air. We will be right back after this quick commercial break.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
Always love that quick commercial. Again, that is sponsored by scvchat.com and SCV Chat on Patreon. Again, if you want to support the show, please go check us out on Patreon. If you want to know a bit more about SCV Chat, go check out scvchat.com. Now, let us get back to our regularly scheduled programming with the SCV Career of past Commander-in-Chief Paul Gramling. Commander, why don't you take us into your term as Commander-in-Chief from 2018 to 2020?
Well, let me add this, Moose. I've known a lot of people, some people that have run for office on all different levels, and they were defeated. They didn't win their race, and they just kind of left the organization, or either that or they just went and done their own thing. You never heard from them again. And I've known these people on all different levels that have done that. I think it's a mistake because I'm proof that you can lose as many races, elections as you win. And I probably lost more than I've won. But if you think you've got something to give to the organization, ideas, whatever, don't run in one election and get and lose and then go away. We need men. We need some good men to stand up for these positions. And from what I've seen, the largest place we need good men are in the divisions, because it's getting hard from some divisions I know, getting good men to stand up and run for these positions in the division. We need good men to do that because we need good men to move past that as well for these national offices. It's not easy sometimes in these positions, but out of roughly 25,000 members, I know there's some qualified men out there. And for all the wives of these members, if your husband is wanting to do this, wanting to serve, support him, because he's not going to be worth the hoot if you don't. I know that, personally, that if your wife is not supporting you, it makes it a whole lot tougher doing the job that we all need to do. So I just wanted to throw that in there for anybody who has run a race and lost, not to give up, but to keep at it. Now, if you lose a whole bunch of them in a row, maybe someone's trying to tell you something. I don't know, but
I mean, that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. I always remember you telling me, I can't remember what reunion it was we were at, but I distinctly remember you saying, I probably lost as many as I've won.
Well, I ran for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief 4 times before I got elected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, just imagine, if you will, because I truly believe you did a good job. I don't know about all our viewers, but I'm pretty sure you're
everyone has the right to their own opinion.
But imagine if you would have quit, say after your first loss, while what was the first year you ran for lieutenant commander again?
2004.
2004. Could you imagine if you didn't feel the other positions you felt from 2004 to current day, and how different the SCV would have looked?
It taught me when I lost that election in 2004. It was hard, but like I said, I just turned around and Denny wanted me to serve as his National Chief of Heritage Defense. I probably learned more in that 2 years between 2004 and 2006 about what we do in this organization than I have in any other position. Mm-hmm. It's also probably one of the hardest positions to serve in if you're doing it right. One of the hardest positions to serve in, because we had heritage attacks, every time we turn around, especially back then when it was really gathering up steam, if you will, and coming after us. When you had the SPLC really starting to hit us hard with Morris D's and those people. It was really hitting us and starting to hit us hard. And that was one of the toughest jobs I ever had in this organization. But I learned a lot. And by serving, and I told a young man this a few years ago, by serving in a lot of these different positions, from camp adjutant, camp commander, brigade commander, and division and national levels, by serving in these particular jobs and these positions, I learned what it takes to do those jobs efficiently or non-efficient. I learned what it takes these jobs. So when I was fortunate enough, honored enough to be elected Commander-in-Chief, I knew what all these positions, how they, what made them tick, mm-hmm. what makes it, people, what they could do, what needs to be done in these positions, and not just with something I read in a manual or something. I'd actually done those jobs and knew what it took to be in those positions. So that also helped me out as well.
And I couldn't agree more because, I've heard from other people, the having it hard to find people to run for offices, and we have good men. And like this is a great comment that Carl put out. We'll get back to Miss Sullivan when we get to that part, because I'm sure you're going to spend some time talking about the Forrest funeral. I truly believe, if you truly believe in our mission to run, if you truly believe in our mission, run for office as I'm going to bugger this
that
up
many times.
Yeah, that many times. Not to mention staying active past commander and after you've been serving after you've served as commander-in-chief. I think that shows dedication. But I love the two words there, because Chuck has also said this, past commander-in-chief and Michael. You don't have to stop after your commander-in-chief. There's a lot of positions in this organization that need you to fill. That goes for past camp commanders, past brigade commanders, past division commanders, past army councilman commander levels. There's so many good positions that we need good men on. And I truly believe in both these sentiments. If you truly believe in our mission, you run for that office as many times as you have to. If you
just because you're passed don't mean you're done.
Exactly. And if you truly believe in the mission, and if you're truly dedicated to it, you'll run as many times as you have to. Commander Gramling said he ran for lieutenant commander-in-chief 4 times. Mm-hmm. That's, 4 times after a 2-year term. That's 8 years that he had to be dedicated to the SCV. And then when he won it, to serve 2 years as lieutenant, 2 years as commander, 6 years as passed on the GEC. And think of what would have happened if he would have stepped down. Well, we would have lost a very good commander-in-chief that played a big role in the Forestry tournament. So,
when I lost in 2004, it was hard. But like I said, I learned a lot as a National Chief of Heritage Defense. But I think it was really hard in 10 and 12 when I lost with Kelly. And Kelly's a friend. We're all friends in this. But that was hard for me to deal with, even though, it's, anytime you lose like that, it's difficult to deal with. But I've always felt like there's a reason things happen. Mm-hmm. And there was a reason why that played out like it did. And when I was elected commander-in-chief, I'd already had some ideas, and it was a perfect time for those ideas to come to fruition. In 2015, when we were in Charleston, no, it was Virginia. I take that back. We was in Richmond, Virginia, for the 2015 convention. And we were dealing with what happened in Charleston in 2015 with the shooting. And I knew I was running for lieutenant commander-in-chief the next year. And the way it looked, it looked like I had a good chance of winning this time. And I went to Donnie Kennedy and talked to him. And I told him what my intentions were. And if I was successful, if I was fortunate enough, blessed enough to be elected commander-in-chief in 2018, that I wanted him there serving as my chief of heritage operations. And I even told him and Ron worked together a lot. And I even, jokingly, but I was serious, but jokingly, I told him, I said, talk to Ron about it. If Donnie, if you can't do it, if Ron can do it, I said, I'll take one of the Kennedy brothers. And I know Donnie bet more because he lives, what we call Upper Louisiana. I don't want to use the N word. So he lives in Upper Louisiana. And so I knew Donnie better because I've, done more, events with him. But I was good with either one of them because they're both fantastic. And when Donnie, met with me, we met a year or two later, and he agreed to do it, and asked if, and he wanted Ron to serve as promotional, chief of heritage promotions, which I was good with. So that kind of set us on the path on what we started on my administration about taking back the narrative and the Southern Victory Campaign and to make Dixie great again and all these things. And the Commander's comments was started then. So I'm proud that we was able to get that off the ground. We always knew that wasn't going to be the end all, because we knew it would grow from there. But and it has. Look what we're doing here, with SCV CHAT, which is kind of all this is come from the beginning of the Commander's comments and taking back the narrative. It's even in your slogan, your motto, beginning of the show. So that's something that we was working on, and I told people, the delegates, in 2018 in Franklin when I was elected, that this was going to be a long process. It's not a short-term thing. It's a long-term thing. We're still in for the long haul, and I hope that everyone that's listening, and you can tell other people, this was the plan all along, that it's a long-term situation. Our enemies didn't take this stuff away from us overnight. They've been at it for 35 years. And we're not going to get it back overnight. But we still need to be in for the long haul and stay at it and keep having success with what we've been doing. So, and we are, my what you might call accomplishments. I've never looked at doing something just to see if it's going to be part of my legacy or something like that. I believe history would be the judge of that. I was happy, fortunate under my administration that we finished the museum, getting the museum built, even though we wasn't able to open the doors, if you will, which came a little bit after I stepped down, but the building was finished. And I was, I'm glad of that, and I'm glad where we are right now with the banknote being paid, and everything is looking good. As you know, we had our General Executive Council meeting this past weekend, and there's a lot of good things in front of us in the future that we're going to be able to do. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. So, but like I said, anything I might or might not have done in my 2 years, history will be the judge of that. And if it was well done, then people will remember it because of that. And, not necessarily anything that I've done, but the people around me that have done an exceptional job during that time.
All right. And I mean, I agree with everything you just said, by the way. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pick your brain on that. Just everything you were able to say off that one question was phenomenal. And I hope everybody takes it to heart. And all the hard work this man has done and the example he has set via that hard work.
Well, all I can do is give advice or recommendation if I'm asked, and it's up to the members whether they accept it or not. And I'm good either way. I mean, all I can do is tell you my opinion and what I've gone through, my experiences, and there's been quite a few in the past 35 years. And you can take it for what it's worth, and I won't hold it against you if you don't listen to me. That's what makes us such a great organization. We all have different opinions. When I was sworn in Franklin, I told the delegates there that I don't know of anyone that I agree with 100%. Even my wife Linda, we have disagreements, and then I tell her she's right and everything's okay. So so and that's fine. That's who we are.
Yes, sir. I mean, I think that's a good Southern quality. Southerners are able to disagree, and after a meeting, after the disagreement, we're brothers.
Mhm.
You
We're
don't
family.
hold it personally. Yeah. Uh, if I held everything personally in my short career of the SCV, I would already have a bucket list of enemies, even though this is just,
Your head would explode.
yeah. I mean, I've only held one brigade office. I'm currently serving as a councilman. If I held the grudge against some of the things that happened to me during that term, the votes that didn't go my way, the gentleman that ran against me, if me and him couldn't shake hands after that, I mean, what's the point? Why make
It-
enemies out of your own membership? Me and him were able to say, okay, we agree and disagree on a lot of things, but we both know we care about the SCV and the cause.
yeah.
And
And,
luckily, I
and,
have.
and Carl's right. I don't agree with him 100%. I know it's odd, but it's true. But no, I said we're all brothers in this, and we're a family. And if you let things disagreements, now we can disagree, but we can be agreeable, you know, at the same time. And there's some things in this organization that I don't agree with, but that's my opinion, and I have a right to that opinion, just like anyone else. And sometimes, like Carl has said, everyone has a right to my opinion, but it doesn't make any difference at the end of the day. We're all in this for the same reason, and we still got a lot of work ahead of us. We've been able to accomplish a lot for the past several years, and we've got a lot more to do, and we've got people in place that can do that. In my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. The organization, I think, is in a great place to. I'm sorry, Jason, you threw me off with the. I believe that's from when we were taking apart the charge. So great timing, though. I'll give you that, Jason, putting up something from the charge episode. But let's read that for example. You can put it back up, Jason. It was Southern hands that set star after star in the blue field of glory. And if any more stars are ever planted there, it will be strange if Southerners were not found assisting at the service. That goes for the founding of our country.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a future episode, by the way. But that also goes with the SCV. Yes, we're all Southerners, but we're all in this one goal to honor our heritage and to let disagreements, like Commander Gramling said, there's been times where I've disagreed about certain directions, but after I've voiced my opinion, after a vote's happened, I let it go. And it's shocked a couple people. I was like, I'm supporting it 100% because that's our organization. I believe in the mission. We both have the same idea or the same goal. Just
Take
because
the
we
vote
have,
and move on.
yeah, just because we have different opinions on how to get to that goal doesn't mean we need to break apart.
Right.
So I can't thank you enough for this words of wisdom. You're getting a lot of people saying that. Um, Captain Billy Bryant, saying, I value your advice. I couldn't count how many times I called and asked your opinion. You have helped me become the camp commander I am today. Thank you.
Billy
And
Bryant's one of those men, has done a lot for this organization and done a lot for Mississippi and a lot for Florence. He's one of those men that really stepped up and done a lot of work,
and
and at Beauvoir and other places as well. So
I couldn't agree more. And both of y'all are after I'm running for camp commander, so I feel bad for both of y'all's phones. But yeah, no. And Dr. Mitchum is right. Paying off the loan is a huge, major step forward for the SCV. Time for a nationwide ad campaign. Going on the offensive. And I couldn't agree more. And we have a lot of great steps forward on that with the PR effort, with the Confederate Legion and SCV Chat and National everything is moving in the right direction. But we'll get off on another tangent if we're not careful.
Well, I want to thank the membership for everything that they've done for the museum, as far as from when I was in office until now, because, you know, I'm not boo-hooing anything. I'm not complaining about anything. It comes with the job. I had some harsh comments, emails, and phone calls when the museum was almost finished, because people started realizing we had to pay for this, even though the membership voted to do this. And I caught a lot of harsh things from members, and that's fine. When you're sitting on the horse, you're the easiest person to throw a rock at. That's fine. But I always knew that we would come together. We would pay this note, this bank note. I was looking a long ways down the road, if you will, having this museum and knowing that it would be second to none. No one else would have anything that would come close to this museum. And sometimes I know it's not a plan, but sometimes you got to have faith. And my job was to finish the museum. We finished the museum and help work with others to start to pay for it and get us into that position. And due to the work of a lot of people, we were able to come to that conclusion and have that banknote paid, and we're in good shape now. So, like I said, my hat goes off, a tip of the kepi to all those men and women that worked to get us to the position that we're in when it comes to the museum, because, you know, we've got such a fantastic future ahead of us with that museum in place and all the good things that we're going to be able to accomplish with that museum, and the lessons that we'll be able to teach those people, regardless of where they're coming from, you know. And talking to Adam Southern, you know, they come from all over the country. And so just look at the advantage that we're going to have being able to teach these people the true history. And that's why Chuck McMichael had the idea back in 2008 in the beginning we need something that will teach people, future generations, and that's not going anywhere, and that we have control. See, and that's the best thing about this museum. We have control of it. We don't have to worry about any state entity, no national entity. This is ours. Mm-hmm. And it will always be that way. So we, you know, like I said, we've got a bright future ahead of us with this museum and our property up there, everything we have up there. It's like I said, I'm looking forward to whatever time I have left on this planet. I'm looking forward to being able to experience what we have there in Columbia, Tennessee.
As am I, Commander. Is there any parting words you want to give everybody before we start getting ready to sign off for the evening?
Don't give up. Keep fighting. You know, and make a difference. You know, I said this in Franklin when I was sworn in. We need some good men, and I guess I can leave that with the members that's watching and that will watch it. You know, don't give up. We need good men in places of leadership. I can give advice. I'm good for that right now, since I really don't hold a position. I can give advice, whether you take it or not. But you know, we need good men to step up and be counted on. When I first started reenacting, the captain of our company, he used to tell us, you know, if you want to take a part, if you want to be part of something, you need to stand up, raise your hand, and say, "Throw me in, coach. I'm ready." That's what we need from our membership. Raise your hand and say, "Throw me in, coach. I'm ready. I'm ready to do something."
And I hope everybody does take that to heart and do that. Real quick, we do have a couple comments I wanted to address. Past Chief of Heritage Operations, Ron Kennedy, just said, we just kind of got tired of voting against you.
That's fine. I outlasted them. So
yeah. that's a great way to look at it. And then we have a first-time viewer of SCV Chat, Todd Anderson. And I cannot thank you enough for supporting us here at SCV Chat. I hope to see you Thursday and for all the Monday episodes that are going to follow this one.
Thank you. Todd, there was an Anderson that got me involved in reenacting in the SCV. David Anderson, guy I work with, he got me into this.
Yes.
So,
and real quick, I do want to say to Todd, because our behind-the-scenes man, past Commander-in-Chief Jason Boshears, asked him a question if he was a member. He said it's hard to find family history when your last name is Anderson on both sides. Well, don't worry, Mr. Todd. We have a great genealogist that will be happy to help you try to become a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. You can see our email scrolling across the screen and in the chat below. Email us at scvuyoutreach@gmail.com, and I'll make sure you get in touch with our genealogist in chief, Mr. J.C. Hanna, also our Chief of Staff, J.C. Hanna. And he will get you situated, sir. We would love for you to become a member and love for you to continue supporting SCV Chat. Again, thank you, sir. I'm glad to see we have a first-time viewer tonight. And real quick, now that Carl's on, Carl, your new name is Carl the Elder. Since I'm Carl Jr., you are Carl the Elder. But thank you, everybody. And everybody, please, because I'm sure Commander Gramling is going to come by and try to respond to a couple of the chats that we had tonight. Tell him, thank you for not only his service, but coming on tonight and giving this program. Did a fantastic job. And I definitely want to continue the SCV Career series. I'll space them out. Because, next up would probably be Chuck. And, who wants to listen to Chuck talk for about an hour and a half?
Two Louisianians in a row.
That'd be rough on anybody. Past Commander-in-Chief Michael is about to text me right now and be like, nope, not coming on because of that comment. But thank you, Commander, and thank you all who have watched. Again, make sure to share this episode out and email scvuyoutreach@gmail.com, and you will be featured on this Thursday's episode of Look Around the Confederation, this Thursday at 7 p.m. Confederate Standard Time. Make sure, if you got camp news, brigade, division, Army, send it all in, and we'll be covering it this Thursday. Also, Look Around will be starting back soon with our Army and Division updates, our, what did I call it, State of the Divisions, State of the Army addresses. We'll be starting back that soon. I cornered a couple of the Army commanders this weekend, so I know it's coming soon because I'm forcing y'all. I got blackmail on all the Army commanders, and they're coming on the show at some point. Some of them are in the chat, and again, I'm going to be getting phone calls after the show, but that's fine. We'll be starting back with those soon. Don't know exactly when. I still have to contact the Army commanders on their scheduling, but we should be getting back into that routine on Look Around. And, of course, I can't wait to see y'all this Thursday. Make sure you use this Tuesday, if you got the free time, to check out Look Around Florida with the Florida man, Sean McFall. And, of course, Friday night live with David Pope and the Friends Group. And, of course, Sunday you have Michael Hardy, the official SCV Chat historian, diving into some type. And there's a text from Chuck. I knew Commander McMichael was going to – I hope you don't mind me reading this out because I'm going to read this out. You'll have me on, and I'll make you like it. Bless his heart.
He will.
He'll make you like it. Chuck's got that ability. David Pope, there is no Friday night live this week. He's unable, but plans on doing a rerun. So no new content, but go check out that rerun because he has a great show there. But I guess without any further ado, ladies, gentlemen, it's been a great show. Been great having you. Make sure again to support our Patreon members because just like this, you get added to the end credits of the show with your name scrolling across the bottom. So without any further ado, good night, everybody. And remember, no Fumar in the elevator and never give up.
That's right.